Hey guys, it's Pam from Cranberry Cottage. I'm in my backyard and I'm working on some of those porch welcome signs that I've been making. So I thought, you know what, you guys have been awesome customers of the store and really taken good care of us last year. I thought maybe I'd do a tutorial and show you how to make those signs. We sell the letters for welcome in the shop. I cut them out with a laser, and then I also sell the home decor transfers that I've been putting on those signs. You could also use napkin decoupage. If you guys give me a little second, and please don't hold the look against me. I've been sanding all morning long and working with the laser. So give me a couple minutes, I'll get over to the signs and we'll get started. Okay guys, so I am sanding outside on a table outside my studio. And so I get these cedar pickets, and there's several different kinds that you can get. These are kind of semi-rough. They're not smooth, but they're not super rough like some of the ones that you see at Home Depot or Lowe's. I think these ones were around, I don't know, 3 something a piece. And I believe these are 5 feet. They could be 6 feet. I just don't remember, but they work really, really good for what I do. And what I do is I just take 120 grit sandpaper and I sand them down. I don't want my pickets particularly smooth. I like a little bit of texture because I'm going to need that when I'm going to do that old barnwood painting technique on here in just a few minutes. So I'm going to sand all these boards down, and then we're going to stain them all. And you're going to have to cut some brackets that will go up here about 3.5 inches down, and another bracket, wood bracket that goes down here. It's a brace that goes here, and I think they're 3.5 inches from the end. So we'll get those all cut down, we'll get the wood all sanded down, and then we'll do the staining. Okay guys, so we are back, and I'm going to show you a little bit about staining. We carry Dixie Belle products in the store, and I'm a premier retailer for Dixie Belle, which means that I carry everything in the shop that they sell. There's a couple of things that we don't have to carry, but for the most part we have pretty much everything. And I've been using this No Pain Gel stain. This is their No Pain Gel stain. It is an oil-based product. This is the walnut. I hadn't used it. I've been putting off using it because I have so much Minwax at home as far as their stains and that. I was trying to use everything up. But I thought, man, I better start using it because I sell it. So I gave it a shot, and I will tell you, this is my favorite go-to for gel stain. Goes on nice, creamy, has a lot of pigment in it. The wood absorbs it really, really well. It's just very, very easy to work with. I use it with their applicator pad. We sell these in the shop also. Absolutely love this product. So after you get your boards all sanded down, I do the front, back, sides. I leave a little bit of rough. As you can see, they're rough. Then the next step is to sand them with a dark stain. If you don't want to sand it with a dark stain, don't. This is your sign, you do whatever you want. But what I do is I do a dry brushing technique over the top of the stain to make it look like old painted weathered wood. So anyways, I just dip my applicator pad into the stain and I just start rubbing it on, and you can see it just goes on so nice. I do a lot of circular motions with these boards because they are rough, and it seems like the circular motion helps get the color down into the little nooks and crannies and the little grooves and the rough spots. Now I'll do the fronts, the backs, and the sides, and then I will let this dry out in the sun for just a little while. And it's so nice outside that I just couldn't see being in my studio today working. And this is kind of smelly, so it's better to use it in a ventilated area. But look how easy that goes on. Absolutely love this stain. Now you can wipe it off after you apply it. You don't really need to. The darker the better for me, especially when I'm doing this particular technique. So just make sure you do the front, the backs, and the sides, and I will continue on with this little project, and then as soon as we get done and the boards dry a little bit, then we'll move on to the painting technique. All right, give me a few. Okay guys, so we are back, and I started working on one board, and I'm going to show you how to do this technique on the second board. It's pretty easy, simple technique. Take the dry brush. I have this very old chippy brush, and you can see how separated all of these bristles are. This thing has been used I swear I use it for everything. So it's very well worn. I've had it for a lot of years. I loved this brush. So if you can find something similar to this, or when you go to Walmart and those cheap chip brushes, if they have these bristles that are separated like that, that would be absolutely perfect for this technique. For the paint, I'm using Dixie Belle's Cotton. Cotton is their whitest white. It's a fabulous paint. It's a little bit more durable than like the Deb's DIY. The Deb's DIY can be reconstituted with water even if it's been setting for a couple of days on a piece. I use that a lot for my art furniture. What I do is I just spoon in some of the cotton into a bowl, little bowl. I also have a plate around. This is the finish that you're trying to achieve. So it looks like old barnwood. I know a lot of you have done this technique. I also take a putty knife and I scrape some paint across the top of it. I didn't grab a putty knife, but I will. So what I do is, this is actually a dry brush. I do not wet my bristles. So I dip it down into the paint like that, and then I'll work it on my plate. So work it on the plate. Then I will take, and instead of just setting it down and dragging it, I always have a motion in going with my arm before I even set it down, because you don't want to have a start and stop line. You see how easy this is? You just have to make sure that you get it real fluid. Sorry about the jets. We're kind of in the landing zone, takeoff zone. They're really not supposed to fly over the house, but they always seem to find our octagon house. So just bear with me. That was actually pretty decent, not too bad. So then you just keep working this until you get the desired amount of paint on your piece that you want. I'll turn my brush sometimes to get a little more paint in certain areas. And I never sweat the small stuff. If I get some of these heavier lines, I never worry about it, because I know I can always go back in and add more paint and make it look okay. So here it's a little lighter. I will go back over. So that's all you got to do is you just keep layering it on there. Just make sure that when you're putting your paint down, that your brush and your arm is in a fluid motion. That way you don't have any of that starting and stopping. And I just keep layering this until I get the desired effect that I want. And this doesn't take a whole lot of paint. Then I'll turn it over. And it doesn't matter if you get a little bit on the back, on the side and on the back, because you can always sand the back down. Now I don't paint the backs of my pieces, I just leave them stained. Saves paint and time, but it still looks finished. There's nothing worse that I hate than when I see a piece that people have spent time on and then they don't do anything on the back and they leave the paint looking just kind of scraggly and drips and stuff like that. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. Finish your piece. If you're going to spend the time to do it, finish your piece. Now this paint dries pretty fast, so I will flip it up. And that works. So this on the back has got some drips on the back. So what I will do is I will sand this all down or wipe it all down. This is chalk paint, so you can sand it all down. Then I'll restain a little bit on the back to make it nice and neat. Like I said, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. Make sure you finish your project nicely and neatly. Okay, let's see here. And we have the cross braces, and this is what's so important about not putting these together until after you paint these pieces, because then you can take the time and make it look nice and old. If you have this sitting here, then it's really, really hard. You start getting cross on here. So then you can just take and do your technique like you need to. And it looks nice and neat. You don't have this extra paint all over the place. And don't worry about painting the backs of these, because these are going to be a cross up there at the top. Just add as much paint as you want or as little paint as you want. And then I'll set those aside to dry. See what I mean by a super easy technique? Very, very forgiving. You can add multiple colors to this, grays, browns, to really make it look like old barnwood. I wanted mine to look like an old weathered fence. Oh, the wind just caught my paint. Let me pick it up. Okay, so we're back. Whew, wind's coming up. Okay, so I think I've pretty much got this. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'll get a putty knife, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the putty knife. And you can either add that technique to it or not. I just like a lot of different textures. And we'll go from there. All right, guys. Okay, guys, so we're back. And this is the second part of this technique. So you're going to need a plastic putty knife or a metal putty knife. It doesn't really matter which you prefer. A puddle of paint. Same paint. I'm using cotton on a paper plate. So what I do is I just take and dip the end of the putty knife into the paint. And then at a 45-degree angle as I'm going along, I just lay it down and I start dragging it so that it looks like there's these chunky pieces. And it's going to take you a little bit to get the feel of this. Sometimes you'll get some big ones, sometimes you'll get some little ones. Just depends on how you load your brush. Or your, I should say in this instance, your putty knife. And you just keep adding until you get the right amount of texture that you want. I just like it because it looks like it's a little bit chippy. Now there we got a big chunk, and there. And I never worry about those, especially on this, because the letters are going to be covering it quite a bit. And that's all there is to this technique. Just keep dragging it as you go along. You can do it in different colors, however you prefer. So I'll finish this up. I'll add my letters and my transfers. I'll put it all together. And I'll show you the end result. Okay guys, thanks. Okay guys, so here's the finished product. This sign is going to be 6 foot tall instead of the 5 foot tall. As we get closer, you can see this is where we did the putty knife. All these little splotches. Just kind of gives it that old and weathered look. Now I do have one more step that I'm not going to show you on this go around, but we have a product in the store from Sweet Pickins Melt Paint called Dark Oil Wax, and it is an antiquing medium that goes on with a paintbrush. It's oil based, and then you wipe it off with a cloth, and it will darken up this white just a little bit, kind of give it an antique look. And then after that dries for 24 hours, then I will put the welcome letters on and the decor transfers. And then I will splatter this, seal it, and it will be ready to go to the shop. All right guys, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, you know where I'm at. Have a great evening.